Well, the mission actually started a year ago, and that the good people of Ireland, through their donations, enabled us to buy the boat, the MV Saoirse, to prepare for our trip to Gaza, to alleviate the stress of the people of Gaza and the blockade. But however, 6 months back, whilst we were in Turkey ready to make the run to Gaza, our boat was sabotaged by the Israeli Defence Forces in such a way that it was a premeditated attempt to kill the 25 crew members on board. However, that never deterred us. The boat went into a dockyard, was repaired at quite a bit of expense. Again, the good people of Ireland rallied together, repaired the boat, and just a few weeks back, it was the second attempt to reach Gaza. Once again, we went to Turkey, a town called Goshak, where the boat was docked. We put the boat back in the water again. We sailed to Fatna in Turkey, where the Harbour Commission is, where we got the paperwork ready for our quest to Gaza. But there were some delays in Turkey. Then the Turkish government in Ankara decided to withhold our passports for 24 hours, and that delayed our quest to Gaza. But however, we did get on our way, and after 3 days at sea, we eventually got to the control zone, the illegal control zone, which the Israelis had set up to blockade the people of Gaza.
John, what happened then?
Well, we got till around about 40 nautical miles from Gaza. Our spirits were pretty high because, you know, you always wish that we're going to get in, because that was our main goal. We expected it to be actually at some point intercepted around about 8 o'clock that morning, and it didn't come. We were going along with the ship, the Canadian ship, our other comrades. Their ship was much slower than ours, so we weren't making great distance, but we were going along fine. And as I say, the spirits were high. And then roughly, as I say, around about 40 miles out from Gaza, the Israeli warships started appearing on the horizon.
What was the first indication that might actually be the case, that you were going to be intercepted?
Well, you know, once we started seeing the warships appearing on the horizon, we could see a number of them. At one point, there was 5 warships. Now you take it, there was 27 people in 2 wee small boats, with no nothing, no arms, no nothing, no threat to anybody, and five massive warships, helicopters, around about 20 smaller boats. What's the name of the thing boat?
Zodiacs.
These are high-powered boats with their so-called special forces on. Were circling around the boats. So they did it to such extent that they had corralled the both boats into a small area. There was a bad storm coming up, so there was, and basically what happened was our ship then smashed into the Canadian ship, and we were left with a gaping big hole in the back of our ship. At this point, I didn't realise that we were taking on water, but the Israelis demanded that be allowed to board the ship, and we told them we weren't allowing them. They had tried this all through the day, put through the radio saying that if we allowed them to come onto the ship, they would allow us to proceed to Gaza. This was never in our remit. It was never ever going to happen. We were never ever going to concede the Israelis to come on board the ship. The blockade is illegal, and what they're doing on the people in Gaza, so we were never going to consent. So they basically told us then was that if we did not consent, that they were going to use force. So we says, well, that's up to you. We're no threat to anybody, but if you want to come on board, we can't stop you. But you know, you most certainly aren't going to be welcomed on the ship by us. At that point, they started using the water cannons, wasn't it, Phil?
The water cannons, they're not kind of a small thing. They're a fairly large boat. They actually had 4 water cannons at sea, and there was 2 to 3 round our boat at that time. The captain in charge of the IDF, the Israeli Defence Forces, they demanded that we remove obstacles in the stern of our boat. We had put some obstacles like ropes and chairs to try to impede the Israelis from coming on board. And then they opened fire with the water cannon, which is a powerful weapon, and it was so powerful it actually ripped part of the aft of the boat away, and also the bridge was badly damaged by the force of the water. The water also got into the electrics of the boat, the generator, and it caused a fire, and a lot of smoke started coming from the boat. So we were fairly apprehensive, and that we knew we were taking on water for a start, and now we were on fire. And it was a bit scary at that time. Eventually, our captain, Sakarek, he's a Greek, he decided to put the full turbos on and head to Gaza. But remembering that our boat had a maximum speed of 25 knots, and the Israeli Defence Forces, their boats could do 40, 45 knots, so we weren't really in with a fighting chance. It was a token thing, I suppose, where we had head to Gaza. The Zodiacs, the rubber dinghy boats with their crew of 10 to 12 commandos, they sailed alongside us at the same speed, and eventually our boat slowed down and stopped. The Israelis then came aboard. They were heavily armed. They were wearing balaclavas, flak jackets. They were carrying rifles, shotguns, tasers and pistols. We had corralled ourselves into the back part of the boat, and eventually the Israelis did occupy the boat. There was very little conversation. In fact, there's probably nil conversation between Israelis and ourselves, except the captain of the Israeli Defence Forces. They ordered our boat to continue to a place called Ashdod, which is a naval dockyard in southern Israel, which was about 2 hours distance from the location that we were at then. Eventually we did get to Ashdod, and it was dark. There was literally hundreds of Israeli soldiers at the dockside with arms, weapons, and our boat tied alongside the dockyard. A person from the Israeli government came on board and explained exactly what was to happen to us. But we disagreed, and that we wanted to leave the boat together, not one at a time, because we feared obviously for our safety. And we did demand that the Irish ambassador be called. The Irish consulate actually came on board after about 2 hours and explained that the Israelis actually wanted us to sign a deportation paper, which in fact stated that we were there illegally in Israel, despite the fact that we had been kidnapped in international waters and brought against our will to Israel. We obviously refused to sign any papers, but we did come to arrangement with the Israelis through the Irish consulate that we would remove ourselves one by one from the boat, and we did so. We were brought to a large warehouse, which was probably maybe 100 yards long at the dockside, and inside the warehouse they had it divided up into smaller units, and each of the crew members actually had a unit to themselves within the warehouse. And there was a table inside these units, and there was 3 Israeli Defence Force members there, plus one Mossad agent who sat at the table. We were strip searched, all of our clothes were removed, and everything was meticulously searched, because obviously they had learned from the last time that they made sure that we had no media stuff like SIM cards or memory cards regarding what happened at sea.
A fair degree of planning obviously had went into this kidnapping, from the disabling of your communications to the construction of the cellular system in the warehouse. Would that be a fair point?
Well, they learned a lot probably from the last flotilla when they executed 9 Turkish people and wounded 50 others. And obviously with the world media at that time and the anti-Israeli feeling which developed because of that, they had obviously tried to get their act together a lot better. We were held in that warehouse for several hours, and we were removed from the warehouse, and some of us were put in chains. For instance, John had leg irons on, had handcuffs on, and we were brought into prison vans, and a convoy left the dockyard to a place called Echelon, where we were processed once again by Israelis, asking us the reason why we were in Israel, and obviously our line was, and consistent line was, that we were kidnapped in international waters and we had no wish to be in Israel, that we wished to go to Gaza.
Just after, say 10 seconds after being strip searched, they were removing us round to the vans. They put us on the vans, and this was sort of the first encounter we had with their so-called immigration people. These were heavily armed people, and but what they did was they stopped me for whatever reason. They did it, and they wanted to search me again. I disagreed with them and complained very strongly that I didn't agree to being searched again, and I was basically then put into shackles and handcuffs which they made sure they had squeezed as tight as they could. But we were then put into the van where Phil and one of our comrades, Billy from Waterford, Phil was handcuffed to Billy. We were kept in the van for a certain length of time, and as I say, then we were removed to the interrogation sort of centre, where we went through 3 different parts of the process. We were questioned about why we were on the ship, what we hoped to do and stuff like that there, and we just said, we stuck to the line, was that we had been kidnapped, we had no desire to come to Israel, we were going to Gaza, the blockade is illegal, it's immoral, and and the suffering that's going on in Gaza and stuff like that there. So this went on for a fairly lengthy time. I have to say, they just seemed to be very unorganised, very thing. But I think they were kind of shocked as well, because the Irish, the Irish just wasn't taking any crap from them. End of story. We were political prisoners, and we weren't going to accept anything that they were saying or doing to us. So then we get brought to the prison, Giveon, in a large bus, and we were strip searched again coming into the prison. And the only way I could describe it was that they were letting us know you're now in prison, and they were sort of wanting to let us know we were in prison. We were then brought to our wing. When we reached the wing, it was pretty funny. The guy, one of the screws, was walking in front of me dancing, and singing and saying welcome to our facility and all that stuff. But they put us into a cell. I ended up in the cell with a guy called Jared Barn, who's a member of the party as well. We and him was in the cell. We probably got to sleep around about just after 5 o'clock in the morning, and then bounces 2 screws at 6 o'clock in the morning, screaming and shouting, prisoners up, prisoners up. We didn't know what was going on. We thought we were probably getting moved again, so we did get out of bed. We stood up, and the screws started laughing. So we knew there was something thing. The screws walked out laughing, but we later found out that day that they have this thing that they come into your cells 5 times a night and scream and shout at you and tell you to get out of bed. And we just said, well, we'll not be doing that again. We don't accept that. It's not going to happen again. They got us the first time, but they'll not get us again. So we point blank refused. So later on that day, we decided to form a committee. There was 3 Irish, and the other fella is Egyptian or Collison. We formed our committee on the wing. There was 4 of us. We had some of the screws weren't too bad. Some of them were just absolute, But what I could see with those screws was they were in total shock, because they were just used to giving orders and people jumping to what they were doing, and we just weren't doing that. We just said no, it's not going to happen. We don't accept you. We're Irish, and not be telling us what to do. End of story. But they asked us about giving out food, our food on the wing, and we agreed to do that because we seen it as a better way to look after our own people. We managed to get a lighter, which was a great thing for Phil. People that smoke, we were able to pass the lighter about. So we did. One of the funny things I have to say that I remember was that they actually came into the cells looking for tunnels. Now we knew we were only going to be there for a short period of time, but they came in with this big massive bit of wood and they were bouncing it on the ground to see if there was any tunnels in the facilities.
I suppose being ex-cash, long cash, you understand the system, and the system there was to try to criminalise us, and we obviously from the first day said no, that's not going to happen. And as John said, we did organise a wing committee, and from then on things actually worked fairly good for us, and that we demanded certain things like free association. And it's probably about the only thing we got, because we were not allowed to have any media contact whatsoever. There was no televisions, no radios, no watches, no newspapers, no writing material, no contact at all with the outside world. It was a complete deliberate block to make sure that we're not informed regarding what was happening.
What was the role of the Department of Foreign Affairs throughout all of this?
The Foreign Affairs Department, to be honest, it was fairly patchy. We had the Irish Consulate came to us the first day, and he had no information whatsoever for us. We were fairly despaired regarding this guy, and he was no help. In fact, we actually at one stage asked him for his pen, and he just refused to give us his pen. And however, the ambassador himself was fairly helpful. At least he did come with information. and he was very helpful right to the end. Our time inside the Gibbon prison was helped, I think, because of the committee which were formed. And at one stage, the prison service actually, the wardens, the Israeli prison service actually said they have tracksuits for us, which to us was another word for prison uniform, which we basically told them to work it because we weren't going to put any prison uniform on. The time there was spent by singing, writing songs, talking yarns, things about the history of Ireland, and especially the Canadians and the Egyptians were there. They were very interested in the Irish angle of all this, and in fact I think they were actually impressed, and I can see that through some of their Facebook responses that they were impressed by the Irish contingent that was in Gibbon prison.
Some of the things that they did try to do was to try to split us up. I mean, after us demanded free association, at the start they were only going to allow us out for 3 hours a day, and we said that was unacceptable. We wouldn't be compliant to it. We wouldn't be going back to the cells. But the next morning, what they did was they let half of our group out and half of the group was kept in. When we learned that, the committee made a decision that all prisoners returned back to the cells, locked up in the cells. I went down into the Screws office and told the Screws that it's one out or all out, or it's not one out, it's all out, end of story, and we won't be accepting it. So we went back to the cells and slammed our cell doors closed. And within 20 minutes they caved in, they let us back out again. This is when the governor then appeared on the wing, and you could see that he was obviously trying to save face with his men, but he was in for a hell of a shock because he was told to get off the wing. He was basically told, get off the wing, and he looked and he says, I'm the manager here, and we says, well, get off the wing, we're having a meeting here. And then he went into the whole thing about us waking us up during the night, and we says, we wouldn't be standing up for you, and he says, oh, you will be standing up, and we says, no, we won't, we'll not be standing up for you, we're political prisoners and we'll not be standing up for you, we'll not be obeying your thing, your soldiers, you're holding us here against our will, but we will not be complying to what you want. Probably in the 4th day, I think it was, that a judge then came onto the wing, and we were taken into this room, and his first line was, I don't want to talk politics, and he says, well, you were going to be talking politics if you're talking to us, end of story, we're political prisoners, you have thrown us against our will. He says, I'm here about your illegal entry to Israel, and we went, hold on a minute, we did not come to Israel, we were kidnapped and brought to Israel, and blah blah blah. So he kept on going on, and at one point, and I just says, you're a criminal, and he was totally shocked. He just bounced up with a chair. He went, I'm not a criminal. I says, you're a criminal. I says, you're part of this whole conspiracy. I says, we've been kidnapped and brought here against our will. I says, and you're part of the whole conspiracy, so you're a criminal. I says, not only that, you should be brought up for war crimes, for the murder of what you're doing in the people in Palestine. You're dropping bombs on little children and murdering people. I says, and stuff like that there. He didn't like it. And then he had the rest, everybody else came in after me, and I think at one point I got told that he was shaking. He was actually shaking, you know, because he just went through the whole thing. You know, we maintained we wanted to go to Gaza. When he asked us where we wanted to go, we said we wanted to go to Gaza. When we couldn't go to Gaza, we wanted to come back to Ireland. What I have to say, and I know Phil will agree with me on this, was what we went through was nothing compared to what the women went through. The women were very, very, very badly treated. We had asked them for them to be allowed to come over onto our wing, and the point blank refused it. They went through a lot of verbal abuse. They went through sleep deprivation and stuff like that there, so that they were badly treated. The
whole idea of the mission was to highlight the cause of Palestine and the blockade. And whilst we didn't actually get to Gaza, we were 35 miles from Gaza when we were stopped by the Israelis. At least we did make internationally a point, and the media did pick up, and most of the world, that there was a problem regarding the blockade in Gaza, and hopefully our mission has assisted the people in Gaza in some way.
I think it was a wake-up call to the people in Ireland. I mean, we didn't see anything until we got home, but you see the response that we've seen with the people in Ireland, and the amount of people, I mean, that are getting behind the campaign now. I think it's job done.
Plans for the future?
With 6 vehicles going to Gaza in the next couple of months, and we want everybody to get on board. We intend to be in Gaza in the next couple of months, and if there's a ship next year, we intend to be on the ship, and we intend to sail to Gaza again. And what I would also like to thank everybody back back here in Ireland for the great support. I'd like to thank our party were fantastic, so they were. It's a pity that the Irish Taoiseach put the call out for immediate release probably 6 days into our detention. You know, it speaks for itself. When the head of the European Parliament put the call out before him and asked for immediate release, it speaks for itself, you know.